have some Q&A to do. I hope you're doing fine, 'cause it's Q&A time again. Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing great. If not, as always, I hope it gets better for you. So welcome to another Friday Night Live Q&A, where you can ask the community and I questions on keeping freshwater aquarium fish, shrimp, and plants. And if you're new here, this is a great place to learn lots about this hobby, tons and tons of experience within this whole community, within this whole fish room, and just all the great people here. And hello, all you guys, seeing y'all in the chat. Now, some of you guys might have seen my first thumbnail. This is what I was trying to capture, but it looked absolutely horrible on a thumbnail because of the glare. Like, I just can't win with this glare everywhere. That's from a little project up there, which I have actually never shown you guys that project yet. But anyways, I was just trying to capture on this thumbnail was this. This is another one of those algae tanks. Kind of like that one is. That one's kind of going through its cycles where the algae is kind of dying off a little bit. But this is one where it's no algae, moss, I mean maybe a little algae down into there, but this moss is pretty much pristine, was pristine. I did pick at it a little bit. And then this tiger lily and anubias on this side is just blown up, no algae really, but then in the middle you have a complete algae scape, which is really cool because you got the bottom going, and then you got to split off halfway up with nothing but the top algae. Really neat, really neat. I know that's not really answering questions, but I did want to show that to you guys because I thought it was kind of cool. And that's what my thumbnail was going to try to be. You know, I should always keep a flashlight on me when trying to show this stuff. I learned that it's really helped to have a flashlight. I'm just looking into my tanks anymore. So most of them are just covered, the lighting. Hello, all you great people in the chat again. And Kenny Overhauls, thank you so much for the $2 super chat to remind me to get in live chat. And always great to see you, Candy. Thank you so much. I probably would have forgot that without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, scrolling for questions here. Do my best at speed reading. Mikey's Fish Tank says, am I going to see you at Aquashella in Florida in a couple months? Did they finally nail something down? Florida seems like a great place to go. I would not be mad about going down to Florida. Give me another good reason. Still kicking myself in the butt not getting down there before Father Fish took down his store, because man, right before all that insanity hit, I was actually supposed to go down there and give a talk to his club, and it got canceled. Of course, everything got canceled. It is what it is. But I'll have to look into the information on Aquashella. I don't really have that info on what's going on with that. And exciting news is we did get all the shipments out too, so that is completely caught up with. I'm super excited about that, and that's such a relief for Sarah and I, is to have those shipments finally done and out. And it was really interesting because it really showed us how far we could really push as far as the business, because we were pretty much stuck with doing a whole month's worth of work into our normal schedule, which it took us that extra day to do it. It wasn't easy. We barely slept, but we could do it, and it was pretty interesting to kind of see bigger limits, new processes, and other things. Because even with space too, space becomes a problem because we're doing a lot of that just outside of our basement. But thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your orders, for your patience, and for your support. Seriously, without you guys, oh, I would have lost it. It would not have been good. Would not have been good for the LRB Aquatics family. So I could never thank you guys enough for all the support during this rough shipping and weather. And man, can't complain about the weather now. It's been nice. Ronnie Goody says, can I put a new sponge filter without a air hose in an established tank to just sit there a couple months, and will it become established that way? Yes, definitely, definitely. Matter of fact, when I first started doing my fish room, I was sticking, when I was doing the sponge filters, had a 75 gallon. I stuck like maybe 20 of them in there just to cycle them up. Which those should actually cycle a lot quicker. They'd probably cycle within a week because that tank's already cycled. All it really needs is something to attach to, that bacteria. So give that bacteria about a week to really settle into that new sponge, and it should get in. It should be good in there. And definitely put it in with one that has fish, a decent size. More fish in there, the better. The dirtier it'll get that sponge, and the quicker it'll get it dirty. But Natural Aquarium says it will seed faster with air, but should get some beneficial bacteria growing with it. Without it, yes. Air does help. Like I used to have airlines, and I actually probably need to make a separate video about this because not many people have gone through the process that I have with, like, okay, I used to do all the filters, and then I went with all the airlines, and then I went completely without anything. But air does have its benefits with certain things, and it just depends on how you work your aquarium. But at the same time, you don't absolutely need it either. That's a huge subject and topic within itself. And I think I have to make a video more about that. But air definitely helps with certain things. And I would like to reinvent the whole air air-driven filter system. Because I think it could definitely be done better. And I've talked to Cory from Aquarium Co-op. I would like to do the project with him because he would be the right person to co-op that with, and since he is a friend of mine, I think it would be great to have both our names on it, and I think it would be really cool to see happen. It's just we gotta wait till he gets the bandwidth to do it, and it's still just a pipe dream. If not, I'll get a 3D printer and end up doing it myself. I actually came with a nice little prototype last night, which was kind of cool. But anyways, back to your guys' questions. I'm just rambling now. Braveheart 1986 says, any tips from switching over from tap to RO water for a shrimp tank? So if you're just switching over from tap to RO, depends on the reasons why you're wanting to do it for your shrimp tank. Are you getting different kinds of shrimp? Are you making sure, because your tap, not everybody's tap water is that hard, and RO is like really acidic, really soft. So you got to think about how you're cutting the new tank. Are you getting Caradinia shrimp? Is it gonna stay soft consistently as long as you do the RO water? You should be able to have that consistent softness. Or do you already have shrimp in there? Is it just Neocaridinias? Usually you can just switch it right over, just kind of blend it slowly if they're already in there. So say you already have some Caradinia shrimp, you realize that your TDS from your tap water is too hard and you want to lower that RO or that hardness on them. You could lower that all the way down to 150, 120. I want to go under 120. I'd probably stick around 180, 150 for your Caradinia shrimp as far as TDS. And you could go straight to that by cutting it. Just do it a little at a time, and definitely make sure you have some GH booster in case you cut it too much. You can always add the GH booster to help fix or alleviate any extra acidity. You Never Know says, how would one start a green water or super algae tank? Just keep the light on 24/7 to start? Or is there something else I can do? So it needs a lot of organics to break down. Really soft tissue kind of plants that break down really help. Grass, you can help kickstart it with some grass, ammonia. Strong lighting, I don't know, like It's one of those real finicky things. It's like, I mean, some people actually start cultures within a jar. This is probably the best way to do it. Is start a culture within a jar up on a windowsill and let the natural sun do it. Because if you try to do it within an aquarium, it becomes really hard. But then you can seed it in another aquarium with that green water. Definitely no filter helps. You don't want any airline or anything within that green water system. I think that helps keep it green. Also, but you can't have green water with airlines. Not saying that you can't. I've done it before. But it helps if you don't have airlines. But I'm looking at some right now. And the thing with these tanks is I have Shelleys that are constantly kicking that mulm in there. And I think the algae will eat off of that mulm that gets into that water column. And then plus organic material over time. I don't know. But yet some of these don't. Like a lot of these tanks don't have that. But there's also not many plants in here. So this tank up here, for instance, let me just get up. Whoa. It's starting to go green. And that's because there's not a whole lot of plants in here like there used to be. Like this will start turning algae, like it's green water now, but this hair algae will actually start taking over. And it'll start consuming what that green water is, and then that'll start clearing up. Now, if I take this green algae out that's eating that excess, then the green water algae will come through. So you got to have lots of excessive nutrients. Ammonia helps, which if I were to read these for ammonia, you want to read any ammonia. So there's multiple things that are at factor with the green water. And it's really tricky because sometimes like when you're trying to get it, you can't get it. And when you don't want it, you get it. But I think a lot just has to do with the just rich organic nutrient water. So like if you were to put grass in a jar or a container, it's going to break down. It's going to get all mushy and soft, and that gets into the water, and then the algae feeds off of that. Same thing as plants break down in the aquariums as well. A lot of these plants though, they're starting to grow out of my tanks, which I've got to fix that. And Danican Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Says, Blue Dreams are amazing, bro. Well, glad you enjoy them. And yeah, they are pretty legit. I love the Blue Dreams. They're one of my favorites. And thank you, brother. I appreciate the support and the $5 super chat. And Victory Gardens Aquatics, thanks for being like number 53. Let's see. Let me flip over. Kind of on a hill, rolling around here. Great. And sorry if I missed your guys' questions. I am trying to read these the best I can on a little mobile device here. Sailors. Sorry if I said that wrong. Says, hey bud, got a weather loach with what looks like a drop of white paint on its side. Do you know what this is? So it could be a calcium deposit coming out. I've seen it happen on Cory. I could imagine it would happen on a loach, very similar body types and body shapes. I've personally not seen it because I don't keep a lot of loaches myself. I do know what a weather loach is. A really cool loach, big, good sized loach too. But it could be a calcium deposit or cyst coming out of them. So if you keep them in harder waters, then sometimes it may be the opposite, or softer water. I can't remember, but I've heard of it where there's a calcium cyst that they can grow and it'll push up out of their skin if they're kept in a certain parameter that doesn't fit what they're normally used to. Because it's like a buildup of this calcium and it just comes out. It's weird. Scrolling. Joshua LaRusso, how to get rid of green water is a better question. Haha, yes. So that's another tricky question too, because once again, it comes into the play of the balance of the plants and the nutrients, and your water changes and your fish level and the amount of food that you put in there. All that plays in a factor. So if you really want to get rid of green water, get faster growing plants, don't end your light, but maybe dim your light. Don't dim it so much to the point that your plants aren't photosynthesizing, because you want to keep those growing, because as they grow, they uptake those nutrients. So it's kind of like a battle between the plants and the green algae. And the more that you could feed the one side, which would be the plant growth we're looking for, over the algae side, the better off you could be. With that real strong light, that's what will really feed that algae those nutrients. The most aquarium plants, they don't really require that much light. We often overlight them. And then also, we're just not sticking up with our water changes, because if we are or filtering our water through like bacteria and stuff like that, because that's a good reason about filters. Granted, I don't use filters, but that's a good reason for filters, is the fact that you are running water through beneficial bacteria, and as you're running that water through that beneficial bacteria, that helps eat up a lot of that green water. So if you've got like a hang on the back, or even a canister filter, even a sponge filter, something like that, that can help with your green water big time. People used to use the diatome filters for green water as well. I've never personally done it. I have one, but I don't even know if I have all the parts to hook it up right. But yeah, green water's it's kind of magical. Peplin Creek Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It says, what do you feed your fish? Asking for a friend. Well, Peplin, always great to see you in here. And thank you again for the continued support here. And yeah, you know, it's the tetracolor tropical granules is pretty much what I'm feeding everything in the fish room. I am trying to get into more live food though, just to trigger better breeding and just give my fish better nutrients. When I see my fish, when I feed them something like blood or blackworms, like their health is just, they're more plump, they're more chunky. Now I don't know if that's more healthy or not. I don't know if they're getting more obese, but they look healthy. They're like, damn, that's a healthy fish. Not so like, oh, even though my fish, they look stealthy, they don't look like they're just obese. I don't know, I guess that's a fine line too. But I wanted to kind of like add both into there. I got the granules and some blackworms going, and brine shrimp would be good. And Daphnia culture would be good too. Like I've got a little bit of all that all ready to go, I just don't have the proper systems to quite make them productable and the masses that I need. Danikin Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat again, brother. Thank you so much for the heat pack fun. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, eating all those heat packs last time was not fun. But luckily they're all out. All the orders are out now. Oh, thank God. Thank God. We're back on track. I could actually update the website so it doesn't look like a ghost town now. I got on there, I was like, man, no wonder I haven't had any orders. But thank you again, all you guys. Blue Ice Aquatics says, can you keep Tangerine tigers with Neos? So you can. You want to keep it more in a neutral TDS, so around 200 TDS will be your fine line. You probably do 190, 210, 220. And you can get both to breed fairly well together that way. Just remember, Tangerine tigers are a little more vivacious than Neos too, so Just watch on how they feed, and as you watch how they feed, then you can adjust to your feeding accordingly. You never know. I'm looking to seed a 1 or a 10 or 20 gallon with green water so I can have a constant supply of amazing food for all the fry I'm raising. I wonder how well green water would actually ship. I could send cultures out, kind of like I do with the mulm. But I don't know how well it would do with like 4 days dark period. I don't know. But the best way to do it is get like some lettuce out of the fridge, since a lot of places it's winter, or some leaves, put it in a jar, put it on the windowsill, watch it break down. In a few weeks, you'll have green water. And then they've got multiple videos on how to make it too on YouTube. That's about the best way to do it. Arm's getting tired from being extended. I'll hold you guys like this. Thoughts on anoxic filtration or deep substrates? So that anoxic filtration and that Dr. I can't remember, Novak, I think it's a little extreme. Deep substrate, nothing wrong with a deep substrate, because you think about it in the wild, how deep's the substrate in a pond or a river or something? It's as deep as it goes. Not on all, some are rock, but for the most part, as deep as it goes. And why can't I find frozen blackworms or dehydrated? Okay. I'm talking about live ones are the best. The live juicy ones, they're the best. Frozen bloodworms you can find, but not the blackworms normally. Dehydrated, I guess they're all right. I'm not a big fan of the dehydrated foods. A wet food is just better for your fish in general, because naturally everything about them is wet, so giving them anything dry can, I don't know if it's really a factor, but I could imagine it could be a factor. It's not properly moisturized. You know what I mean? Let's see. P. Divine says, what are your top 3 reasons for shrimp tank crashing? Top 3 reasons for shrimp tank crashing would be either overfeeding or overpopulation. And third one would have probably had to be a disease of some sort. I don't know what disease it would be, so I never come across one. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think there would be another option that would really cause a shrimp tank to crash. It's just mostly overfeeding and overpopulation. Alright, once again, sorry if I'm messing your guys' questions. Doing my best here. It helps if you have questions at the end. Any new aquariums in your future? So yes, I actually just set up the custom aquarium. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a tank that was sitting there for the longest time. It's gone. And I just finished setting it up today. It is cycling. I put the plant in it, and that's looking pretty sweet. And I'll be making a video of that for you guys. I just have to get to editing it. And yeah, can't wait to do that and share that with you guys. And then I've got some other things I'm planning on doing, like for instance, this is still sitting here, which that'll end up going over there for a big project. And then these are going to get a makeover, because, well, that didn't work out, and I'm going to have to do something with that, because that's just wasted real estate at this point. And a lot of these tanks are actually going to get redone. Like, I'm going to go through and pretty much redo a lot of it, because a lot of it's overgrown, and I need to get more organized and more designed in organization as far as like business-wise, instead of so much just what I like to see. Because I don't know, it's been like that for a long time for me on what I like to see, and it's kind of like I've seen it now, And then I've got other projects like that that I'm going to want to see, but now I feel like I need to make this more productive for all you guys to share with my fish, because a lot of the fish that I have aren't just as easy to get, and I really should be breeding them a lot more than I do right now, by far, or have been breeding. Jim Sheasley, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, Jim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Says, yo, how many shrimp do you have? Oh, I have no idea how many shrimp I have. No idea. Definitely in the thousands, for sure. I probably got 1,000. Definitely. I don't know. It could be in the 10,000 range. Could only imagine. Scrolling. Do you have any rare endler strains for sale? Your website says the Japanese blue endlers are out of stock. So yeah, currently the Japanese blue endlers just went out of stock. I have to work their colony up. I still have a decent amount of them. I just don't like to oversell them, because that's when you get yourself in trouble, and then next thing you know, they won't bounce back for you. But I do have all kinds of rare guppies and endlers on my website. I feel like I need to get to more events, though, to start getting more new blood in. I feel like I've had the same thing on my website for too long now. Granted, there's still a lot of rare ones, but I need new blood. But the only problem with that is I need more tanks. The only problem with that is collectoritis. Oh, multiple tank syndrome really is a problem, especially when there's limited space and limited time to deal with it. Sometimes I feel a bit crazy. Paul C says, would green water form faster if the lettuce is blended in the water than placed in the windowsill? Yeah, I would believe so. That only makes sense to me. Because what's going on is, as it breaks down, then the green algae molecules like eat off of it or something. Jesse Nordholt says, when I feed live baby brine shrimp, I notice lots of unhatched eggs. Are these okay for the fish? Yes, because I think they're mostly just like made out of calcium and proteins or something. So in essence, it's just going to break down and add like beneficial bacteria will eat it, snails will eat it. It'll just go back into the ecosystem. Scrolling. You have wild type endlers for sale. I don't have them on the website. I do got them in the fish room. They're not for sale at the moment. Hopefully, I'm thinking on the Japanese blues and the wilds. The wilds actually are really soon to be done, and I've kind of stalked on those for a little bit. Give them about a month or two and they should be ready. And yes, Pew Fish Zone. There was way too many sold out items, but luckily it's not like that anymore. Andy Pan at 103, 75-gallon tank solely for breeding for profit. Thinking about doing bristlenose plecos, cherry shrimp, guppies, and Corydoras. Do you think that would be a good combo, and what else could I add? So, there's one thing a lot of people forget about with breeding for profit tanks are plants. Plants are also always a good add. Now, trying to do Corydoras, plecos, and shrimp together might be a little tricky, and guppies. You're going to need a lot of hiding spaces, a lot of hiding spaces. Especially with the Corydoras. You're almost better off with just the cherry shrimp, guppies, and plecos. It's still kind of challenging because guppies can pick constantly. Plecos can eat baby shrimplets if not given enough spaces to hide, and you add Corydoras up on the bottom because that's where a lot of the baby shrimp are going to be, at the bottom. then it just makes it even harder. So you got the Plecos, guppies, and corridors going after baby shrimplets. Now, as far as, and or baby fry, which more of the Cory cats can't really catch the guppy fry. Like the guppy and the Cory cats and the Plecos will be fine, but the guppy fries can actually get in between the little small spaces and get to some of the Cory cat fry. Now with the Plecos, they're a little different because they can keep them off into like a little house or a cave and protect them. So they can be done with cherry shrimp and guppies a little better. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to flip this around. Ooh, yeah, that'd be perfect. So on my stand, there's this like a little footrest. It's very uncomfortable. You guys would think I'd never done this before. There we go. That's better. Rich Anthony says, hey LRB, my betta darted after a cherry shrimp in my rock pile and caused a shift trapping himself. I found once home, so I don't know how long he was trapped. Lethargic for 5 days, advice. Yeah, the best thing to do is just baby him. Don't baby him too much, but do keep an eye out for him. Maybe put, either lower the water. I don't know how big of a tank you have, but either lower the water or build a platform to where he can kind of hang out towards the surface of the air so he doesn't have to try too hard and he can gain his energy back. And if he's not eating too much, don't force any food on him so it doesn't muck up or rot out in the tank or draw shrimp towards him. But yeah, just keep an eye on him. Don't like mat it up or anything like that. This is another good reason why it is always good to kind of test your rock piles to make sure they're not gonna shift like that too, because sometimes fish aren't the smartest and they know how to get into rocks, but they don't always know how to get back out of rocks. Patrick Hardy says, how many red cherry shrimp should I start with in a 20 long with plants and El Tiger endlers? Ooh, those El Tigers are cool. With the 20 long, I would do about 10 to 20 shrimp to get a really good colony going. And definitely rock piles, rock piles, rock piles. And thank you all for the good wishes. I appreciate that. Victory Garden Aquatics says, real quick question, how do I get rid of Plenaria? So you can use, I use Pain Cure C dog dewormer. It's a powdered form medication and it's used for dogs. They've got different color packages, which is nothing but the different gram sizes. But what you do is you can use 0.1 gram of that stuff per 10 gallons. And then you wait 72 hours while it's in your aquarium. Then you do a 25% water change. And repeat at least twice. Sometimes it takes a third or fourth time till it's absolutely gone. Just depends on how infested it is. And the best way to get that powder into the medicine, kind of get it into a good liquid form so you can spread it around the tank. I like to put just a tiny bit of it into a cup and then like a couple drops of water, so I just make a paste out of it. Then I'll add water into the cup, and then I have a like decent sized liquid amount that I can pour into the aquarium so it's getting over the aquarium evenly. And if you got a filter, go ahead and just keep the filter running as well, because it'll kill any of the Plenaria that may have gotten to your filter. You turn off your filter and then go through that process and then turn it back on. You'll end up with worms again. But yeah, real quick, 0.1 grams per 10 gallons. Wait 72 hours, 25% water change. LRB Aquatics from K Walker, always great to see you in here. K says, best water for crystal shrimp. Best water for crystal shrimp is the softer acidic water, so you're going to want a lower TDS. Between 150, 180 is great. You can keep them off those parameters, but as far as breeding and their best parameters, tend to be with the 150 to 180. And you want that to mostly be GH because they don't really deal with KH that great. They do love the GH, the general hardness, which is going to be more of your calcium, and your KH is more of your bicarbonates. What's MTS? Just out down. Well, AIM, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll teach you all about MTS, which we like to call multiple tank syndrome. And it is my job to help give that to you. So hopefully you continue to watch this, and we will help teach and treat you all about MTS syndrome. Holly Gibbs says, a white fungus in my bedded tank on my tree limbs. What is it? So often, especially though with like manzanita wood, there'll be this white goobery fungus looking stuff that like bleeds out of the wood. And it's really pretty natural and normal for it to happen. And the bettas, some fish like to eat it. Shrimp definitely love to eat it. Autocinchlists love to eat it. If you don't like the sight of it, and it does kind of help if nothing is eating it, to remove what you can of it, either with a siphon, a hose, like an airline, siphon it, and that way you can get like slow cleaning with it, or just scrub it and do a water change, or you can pull it out and scrub it. There's multiple ways to dilute it or get rid of it, but yeah, with new driftwood, that can happen quite frequently, but it's nothing to be alarmed about, that's for sure. But it does help to clean out of your system. That way it doesn't break down in your system, causing other problems down the road as far as like algae eating off of it or something else. Kathy Kirkham says, I just weeded out a tank full of Taiwan lilies today. They really took off here, shared with other tanks. LOL. I always love doing that. That was a question. You've had a question mark in there, so I read that. That worked well. But, yes, those Taiwan lilies, it's cool when they really take off. Absolutely beautiful plant. Ken Cunningham says, does anyone have input on Daphnia? I need to find different foods for my scarlet batis. Fish clubs are a good place to get Daphnia. I have just a tiny bit, which actually reminds me, I gotta go give them some spirulina. That's a good way to keep Daphnia going if you don't have green water. Just feed them some spirulina powder, and they will last forever. I have this colony that like it's been super neglected, but there's still some around. And you'd be surprised, now that springtime's coming around, if you got any random buckets in the yard or even some random little mud puddles and you're feeling brave, you could get some Daphnia from out of the wild too. Just the season for it as well, with the weather warming. It's about to cool down again though. Avatar Aquatics, have you ever tried breeding a mono shrimp? So I have not, but I do know how to do so, and I think I may try to tackle that here sometime. Now that I got everything to make brine shrimp, I mean, I'm just one step closer to a saltwater tank. There's aquarium salt in the house now. So, I mean, that goes borderline breeding those mono shrimp with saltwater tanks. So, because you do have to have salt water for the larva of those mono shrimp, or some sort of salinity. So that is definitely on the bucket list for sure. Oh, AIM, you already have a problem with too many tanks. So you know all about multiple tank syndrome. You just didn't know the label for it. Well, welcome to the official club. Michael Wells says, have you ever had any Japanese rice fish? So I have. I've had lots of Madekas and rice fish. And I still have some. I got some that are even colony breeding. In a 10-gallon right over here. I got some orange ones over here. Oh, they're colony breeding up here too. I forgot. There's like a bazillion in there. But I do like the rice fish. They're really cool. Keeps the eggs right on the back of them, and then they just kind of lay them around wherever. Algae tanks are great for them guys. If you want to breed those, just get you an algae escape. My God, you'd have a bazillion of them. It's kind of like what's going on up there. Probably why I got a bazillion. Would pygmy Cory be okay with cherry shrimp? Yes, Lisa NJ. They would be absolutely great with cherry shrimp. Pygmy Corys, if you want to get away with like a Cory cat, this to that breeding for profit tank question earlier, if you were to pick a Cory cat, the pygmy Cory cat would be the one to pick. I'd probably not go any bigger than that. Swine Daddy says, starting plans on building my own fish room. How much space do you leave on your racks from the top of a tank to the bottom of the next shelf? So I would at least go like 10 inches. I would probably go no less than 8. And yeah, 10 is kind of the sweet spot. 12 would be luxurious. But once again, that depends on your space and what kind of tanks you're trying to fill in there. I usually compromise with the 10-inch though, because I'm trying to cram as many tanks in as I can. But man, you make them too small, you'll regret it. You'll hate your life. You never want to go too small on them, because the next thing you know, you can't get this in there, you can't get the net in there, your arms all in there awkward, trying to get the fish out. Oh, it's just a pain. I've done it, I've lived it, I've been there. Have you ever had any? Oh, I already answered that one. Review Aquatics. Any tips on getting my Maltese to braid? So you just got to give them time, give them space, and feed them decently, and they will breed. But they do take time to settle in. They're kind of like shrimp and guppies. Well, not always like guppies, because guppies sometimes they'll just go crazy and breed for you. But definitely like shrimp. They're kind of like shrimp where it takes them a moment to settle, like maybe a month or so, to settle into their new tank, their new environment. Get out of the loop of like, oh, what the heck just happened? I guess it's like fish PTSD or something, probably. But they have to get out of that whole what just happened and then get settled into like, okay, let's think about breeding, let's be more social, and let's start a family. I mean, that's the way it kind of plays out, the way I see it. But then once again, personalities of fish are always different too, so sometimes people get lucky. But for the most part, the majority of the time, that's how it rolls. I'm glad to hear it, Patrick Hardy, and glad I can be helpful. Thank you for the kind words, brother. MTS vaccine comes. Oh, I shouldn't have said that word, but that's funny. Oh, there you go. Ron Foss, fish housekeeper. Marvelous tank surplus. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Avatar Aquatics says he has done and documented on how he bred his Amano shrimp in a very detailed way on YouTube. Would love some critique. Well, there you go, Avatar. I'll send some traffic your way. Because I'll have to watch that now, huh? Link it into the comments after this is over. I'll probably want to watch that. I like watching your guys' videos. I watch all kinds of random fish tube videos, because there's always so many ways to do this hobby. And it's cool to see how many, just see the way that people do it differently too. How come you don't keep swordtails or platies? I actually do have swordtails, and they're, I don't know if she's still around or not, but some super old platy I had back here from a long time ago. So I did used to keep platies more earlier in my keeping days. I do have some swordtails on down yonder here. Whoosh. There's actually a ton of babies in there too. They're exploding. I gotta go catch their babies out. But I do keep some. You'd be surprised what's in this fish room. A lot of people don't really realize what's going on in this fish room. So many of my subscribers, like a lot of you guys, I see many names that have been following me for a long time. Like they've watched a lot of this unravel and a lot of this take place and just the full madness of it all. And then there's a lot of people just coming in that are still got to catch up. But there is a lot going on with these hundreds of aquariums in here. Hell, sometimes I don't even know what's going on in some of them. Liddy Myers says, I have red cherry shrimp and would like to add another type or color shrimp, but I don't want to end up with Skittles. Is there a type that I can add without risking it? No, there's not. So with neocaridinias, they will all combine. Regardless of what you want, they will always combine and breed out and mix. So unfortunately, or what you could do is like we talked earlier, the guy asking whether he could keep tangerine tigers and cherry shrimp together, which you can, just keep it at, it's a little trickier because state, which is around 200 TDS. And granted, you could fluctuate probably between 240 and 160 between that. I wouldn't go on long periods of those fluctuations, but like say if it was like that for a week or two or something like that, it would be all right. But you would want to stay more consistently towards a neutral area where you could keep them both to breed. Tiger shrimp and neocardinia shrimp. Which, any cardinia you probably could too. So with like your crystals, which I would, if you were really trying to get the crystals to breed, I'd probably run it more closer to the 190, 180 range with the neocardinias if you're trying to double down on that. Thomas Glacier, thank you so much for the $5 MTS Enabler Fund. Well, I will put that towards the MTS fund definitely, because the next project for that, which I actually have right down here, I'll be making a video about it, but I got this pump here that's supposed to act like a vacuum. I'm gonna hook up some lines up to some fish tanks, and hopefully, I can make my maintenance load a lot less, which will be neat. I don't want to go too far in detail about that because I can't give you guys all my video ideas and everything before I actually do them, even though I want to. I'm not good at keeping secrets or keeping my mouth closed that well. Like if it's like a friend-to-friend thing, yeah, like I'll hold that down to the grave. But when it comes to you guys, me and you, like trying to share, like I want to tell you guys what I'm doing, and it's really hard to not. Guillermo Escobar, hey Lucas, I recently ordered some Rotalia rotundifolia red and Hygrophila cordata. Do you have any tips or experience with these? So I do have the Rotalia rotundifolia, really cool plant, just a lot like the Rotalia colorata and all the other Rotalia. It's pretty easy to grow. Absolutely love Rotalias. If you guys are looking for stem plants, any Hygrophila or Rotalia is the way to go. And or Luigia. But yeah, you can even grow it as a floating plant. And yeah, they're not too needy. The cordata, I think that has broader leaves. Almost looks like a crip. Or I could be thinking about the crip cordata. Can't 100% remember what a Hygrophila cordata looks like. So I don't think I had much experience with it. Let's see. Oh, super chat. Kevin Collis, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Kevin says, does anyone have any experience with flagtail Procyllotus? Picked up a few and was surprised to see them sparring, causing a ruckus. That is surprising. I didn't think they were real aggressive fish. And matter of fact, I absolutely love the flagtails. The only reason why I haven't kept a flagtail myself is the fact that I don't have big enough tanks, so they can get pretty good size. I don't know how small your tank is, so maybe they are in too tight of a space. and they have started sparring with each other, being males, because just sometimes young males, that's what they'll do, even if they are the most peaceful fish. So for instance, rainbow fish are regarded peaceful fish, but they will constantly spar. They'll spar to the point where they get white lips, they bang up the side of their fish. Some of the barbs in here, hill trouts too, they'll bang up the sides of each other, but they're considered a peaceful fish. Same thing with tetras. It's just part of the hierarchy with fish. Another reason why people think discus are sensitive is their whole pecking order and hierarchy of doing the same thing. And they're more of a peaceful, considered peaceful fish, but matter of fact, when they usually have more problems is usually due to the hierarchy, and then people blame it for diseases and then other things. So, trying to fix that, if you're having a lot of sparring and ruckus between them, is either check out the sex ratio of them, maybe add some plants, feed them in different spaces. That way the alphas aren't out competing the betas for food, or betas for food, and they're not like all trying to fight for the food. And if they're fighting for a female, because there's usually a reason why they're sparring or battling, or they're just young and just part of having fun, kind of like when wolf cubs and bear cubs fight and kittens fight all the time, you know. So just watch the behavior. Anything you can do to just try to divide that behavior up, whether it be with decoration, with food, with other fish. Just try to think within those realms, and that should be able to help you. Hygrophila pinnafatida, that is a good one there, CJ. I find it tricky to grow though without ferts. You definitely need to fert for the Hygrophila pinnafatida. And air, you need air for it. What gravel do you use for your tanks? I use a little bit of everything. Matter of fact, I love sand. I love good old backyard dirt capped with whatever. And I like inert substrates as well. Xanadu, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Always great to see you in here, Xanadu. Says, can't wait to see that new vacuum system in action someday soon. Thanks as always for the great info. Well, thank you, Xanadu. And yes, hopefully that will come sooner than later. With the whole last month of orders being slow, I've got catch up to do before I could really get into any project. Oh my God. It's been a while since it's been this tight, and I'm just glad that they're all taken care of. And I usually adjust for this during the winter time anyways, because I know there's usually always that spurt within the winter that shipping is just gonna get slower. So I can't wait till, and I feel it coming, the moment when we don't even need heat packs. We can just ship out, and we got green leaves on the trees and green grass, and birds are chirping. Oh my God, I'm over winter. so over winter, and I could already taste the spring. Our weather here has been teasing us, absolutely teasing us. But thank you. Scrolling. Oh, I'm at the bottom. I made it to the bottom of the chat. Wow. Rarely do I just casually make it to the bottom of the chat. I think I did let it readjust. So, saying that, if you got that question right now, is it time to throw it out there because I am at the bottom? Evan Lang says, do you clean the dirt from your backyard before putting it in the tank? So what I did was I dug it up and then I sun dried it. So you don't have to really clean it or wash it out, because really if you add water to anything, like all the bacteria and funguses and anything living would benefit off of that water. So if you actually break it up, kind of spread it out and let the sun dry it, then you'll bake pretty much anything out of it. and then I stuck it in there, and it's absolutely awesome. I love it. Like, I could literally see the rust. Let me flip you guys over. But the iron, like, I don't think you can have too much iron into a Planaria aquarium, but there is literally, ooh, let me get it to focus, literally a line of iron just right there for these cribs. This is kind of crazy too. Here's another one with the backyard dirt. Look how far down that this Planaria grows. So this is the top of the dirt, and look, it's growing like all the way down here. Absolutely crazy. Clyde Van Winkle, thank you so much for your order. I appreciate that. Just got an email. I appreciate you. Lasagna Substrate. So, Lasagna Substrate. Let me talk about Lasagna Substrate. There's another dirty one with Brightwell. I love the dirt tanks. And look how much, that's just insane with Planaria. Granted, Planaria grows like crazy regardless. I could grow that in sand real crazy. But when I did the substrate, I guess this is kind of substrate lasagna. It really looks like it, but it's really only 2. Orange gives it that look. But I wasn't a fan of that 240 substrate lasagna, because I think what happens is the roots get confused on how to grow through all the different layers. So I think you're best off with just sticking with 2 types of substrate, unless you just like mix them all together and create like a crazy concoction. But when you're layering them out with densities, it can get tricky if you don't do it right. All right, do you breed Scuds as feed or pets? So I used to have Scuds. I don't have them anymore. I had to get rid of them just because selling plants, if they get onto plants, that could be a real problem for me. I get all kinds of emails like, what are these? But if I weren't selling plants, I would definitely have Scuds, because they're great for food. They're great for cleaning plants, actually. Like I had some really good Planaria aquariums with Scuds, just because they would break down and eat all the decaying leaves, and they would just escape everything for me. And feed my fish at the same time. Is Planaria bad? No, okay, it's not. It just has a bad rap because, I mean, they're worms. Some people are like, oh my gosh, worms, you know. It's like ants. We got ants coming in. They come in like every spring, every fall. But every spring and fall, Lady LRB's like, oh my God, they're everywhere. I'm like, hey, they're cleaning things up. You know all those tetracolored tropical granule crumbs that get on the floor and underneath in the between cracks and all that stuff? Those ants are actually cleaning that up for us. So we should be thanking them. But same thing with like Plenaria, is they're eating all that excess food, and that's the time that they usually show up, is when there's a lot of excess food. But they're not bad. The only reason why some people may consider them bad, especially in a shrimp tank, is just competition for food at a certain point. Shrimp can always be Plenaria to food though, always. And then they just can be unsightly. Ron Harryman, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Ron Harryman, that's an awesome name, by the way. He says, thanks, Bromato. Oh, snap, throwing out the Bromato. Says, thanks, Bromato, for all the good info. I did not steal that tag. Where is good old Brotato tonight? He's probably, I'm not even gonna say it. Just because it's a kid-friendly show. What are Scuds? Scuds are gammarous. They're these gammarous Scuds. It's kind of like a shrimp, or like an isopod for the aquatic world. So it would be like your equivalent to aquatic wood lice, or aquatic roly-poly. Deborah Sanders says LRB is a 125 GH okay for cherry shrimp. That's low. That's really low for cherry shrimp. Like, they can live, but they're not really going to braid out or really thrive too hard. Now, I have had people tell me that they have done it. I personally have not had any luck with it myself. keeping them that low. But I would definitely harden that water up, get that GH up. And a really good way, since you already have acidic water, and I think this is how they do get away with this. If you do have soft acidic water, if you have like a cichlid mix or calcium based mixed substrate, let me take you over to this tank for instance, because it has Texas Holy Rock in it, which this thing used to be so much bigger. So here's the Texas Holy Rock. I got that African cichlid mix, which is just covered in mulm and dead root and whatever. But this used to be a lot bigger, but the acidity of the water has broken this down over time, as well as the plecos and the shrimp and everything else in here. And since the neos require that calcium, the acidity of the water will help break that down and actually feed the neos enough to keep that calcium coverage for them, if that makes sense. So your water may be soft, but there's still a source of calcium for them to eat. And that's how you can get away with them in a lower TDS. Gus McGrath says, is 8 pH okay for a fire dwarf gourami? Thanks in advance. So yeah, it should be okay. pH is really a goose chase, and it doesn't really tell you a whole bunch because it could also be per hydrogen. Which, if you have an airline or a certain air amount, that poor guy, I can't believe he's still alive though. If you have a certain amount of air, that can play with your pH. I would definitely go off of your TDS or your GH-KH. So your TDS is a combination of GH and KH, which is your general hardness, your kinetic hardness. And that'll truly tell you whether you have soft water or alkalytic water or something in between. Because that's what you're really trying to figure out. And when it comes to pH, it'll send you on a goose chase on what that really is. Because I've seen soft acidic water with high pH, which absolutely is just, it causes a lot of confusion. To be honest, I don't know why pH is really taught that much into the aquarium hobby. Really probably shouldn't even be. But it's another test strip they can sell to you, I guess. I don't know. That's just my opinion. What do I know? But I would stick with TDS definitely over pH for sure, any day. Alright, so I'm sorry if I missed your guys' questions. Unfortunately, we are over the hour mark. But before I hop off here, we will go ahead and feed some fish here. Because, you know, that's always fun. And I gotta get to feeding the rest of these fish. But these guys have been waiting ever so patiently. You can see them just barking at the corner. Bark, bark, bark. Feed me, feed me. Feed me, feed me. Ooh, you see that barb's banged up on its side. This is, I gotta split these hill trouts up. I think that hill trout's doing that to him. Well, banging up my fish. Little varmints. Yum, yum. Look at them. Just hovering in that current like it's nothing. We're like, what current? Yum, yum. I love those cherry barbs in the back too. See those little cherry barbs in the back? Of course, the females are the lesser color. Males are the bright color. Ooh, they're on a killifish. Yum, 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 yum. You always get more spectacular splashing from just a little dribble of food. What's a good feeding regimen for Cory cats? Black worms. Tetracolor tropical granules. I think they like those shrimp pellets too. I think they need more food. All right, well, I appreciate you all watching. Thank you so much for hanging out, for all the support. Seriously, you guys literally keep me alive. Aloha Joe in Hawaii, thank you so much for the big order. I appreciate that. Aloha Joe, Hawaii. But yes, you guys keep the LRB family alive. So saying that, I love you guys. Hope you all have a great weekend. Until next time, everybody, peace. Shoo. Oh my gosh, look who came out. Oh, of course, I don't have a flashlight, so you can't see him. Let me see if I can sneak this up here. Oh yeah, there he goes. Beautiful Kelly. Gardneri, I think, in a dairy. Absolutely beautiful. Later.